Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to Versus Stars podcast. All my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click the subscribe button, everybody. It's an amazing episode because Benjamin Byron Davis boards the mothership. You know him as Dutch in Red Dead Redemption. He now appears in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and in the upcoming Borderlands film. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Davis. Thank you so much for coming to Versus Stars podcast.
Jeff, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's totally my pleasure. My wife is so jealous right now. She's a huge fan of Red Dead Redemption, and she plays the online game all the time. So she's definitely feeling a little jealous right now.
It's a lucky order of things. There's lots of wives, spouses, I guess, who are not fans of the game because of how much it takes their significant other away from them. So
I will say there's a little jealousy on my part because of that. I'm just like, get off the game. We're gonna hang out. She's like, I'm doing this feat or whatever it is. I'm just like, damn it.
But she's please give her my best.
I totally will. Her name's Joey Lynn. If you want to give her a shout out, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, give me your name again.
Joey Lynn.
Joey Lynn. Yes. Well, all my best, of course, to Joey Lynn.
Thank you so much. So I always start off with a question of inspiration. So what inspired your love for acting and who your earliest influences?
Wow. Okay. What inspired my love for acting? It was probably going to the theater, certainly seeing Sweeney Todd when I was 9 years old, I think, in Boston, the national tour with Angela Lansbury and George Hearn. But I've had lots of actors that I admired when I was younger. I was a big fan of monster movies and big fan of anything that had prosthetics in them. So I, of course, was a fan of Lon Chaney Sr. and Lon Chaney Jr. a little bit, and a big fan of a makeup artist named Rick Baker. But I loved it. Lots of discrete things. I was a fan of comics. I was a fan of Star Wars and Star Trek, and a fan of the theater and a fan of movies, and it all sort of gelled in what I'm doing now, I guess. But acting has been a stalwart passion of mine since I was what my grandmother would call a spoon licker.
Well, I mean, you've had an amazing career, and I mean, even in college, you've won multiple awards for your acting ability. Is your acting, how much of it is innate, and how much of it is just hard work and dedication?
Wow, I love that kind of a question. I think, I mean, there are elements at my disposal that are absolutely innate. You know, I have a barrel chest that I inherited from my grandfather Malcolm, and so I have a resonance that is just from nature. I spent a lot of time training how to use my voice at NYU, at Tisch, and also to improve my speech. It still is imperfect, and I have enough training to know where I'm off, but not enough training to perfect it. But I think ultimately it becomes entirely about work and hard work. But I think that's why we have the term craft, because it's always work, and the real goal is to make sure that you're working as much as you can, and that every time you work, you are making gains, you're improving. And I'm still not the actor I'd love to be, but I'm improving every time I work, and I don't believe that you ever I think mastery of anything, or even the pursuit of mastery, is always a journey. It's never a destination. So it's a flattering question with the awards I won at school, but yeah, I feel just lucky, you know, and the lucky thing about any sort of recognition is just that it's encouragement, and it helps you stay on a path that can sometimes be hard to stay on. It's a challenging trajectory, and it takes mental discipline. It takes a large degree of faith in yourself, and also, pursuing a career in the arts is about loving something with all your heart that is absolutely indifferent to your affection. It doesn't, the arts could give a shit that that I'm here, but I give a great deal of a shit about the arts, and I think that's the proper order of things. That it is ultimately, being an actor can feel a great deal, and it can often be a lot of navel gazing, a lot of looking at yourself and thinking about yourself. And I think if you remember that you're part of a conversation, if you remember that you're part of a craft, and you remember that you're like every other artist, like every other person, you're a work in progress. I think it makes the journey survivable at worst, and really pleasurable on the good days.
That's a great answer. And I like the fact that you're saying you're always pursuing mastery. You would assume with your resume at some point, you'd just be like, all right, I'm just good at this, apparently. I am the master actor.
I think you're in deep shit. I know some folks who believe that about themselves. and I think you're in trouble if you do. But some of the actors that I work with and admire that have got some years on me, the best of them work as hard, or if not harder, than some actors I know that are at the beginning of things. It is, but again, work sort of sounds like I prefer craft, because it's a lucky pursuit. It's you're pursuing something that you love. So calling it work, work is what you don't want to do.
So where does that drive? Yes, where does that drive come from? I mean, is it just perfectionism? Is it a fear that either you'll lose it or someone will come around better than you? What is at the heart of that drive?
I hope it's gratitude. I hope, I was getting my union membership and working towards my pension on roles like Big Guy Number 2 or Large Russian Man. Lots of things that you could look at and you could say that's from a certain point of view, that's beneath me, or that's not something that I want to do, or I'd rather be the star of the thing, or I'd rather be, and I think the truth of it is that the work itself is what's important. The role doesn't really matter. The time that you get to spend on a set, the time that you get to spend in service of something that's larger than yourself, these are the places that you learn. And as for drive and discipline, I don't know. I mean, it's, for me, even when things have changed since lockdown and the pandemic in terms of a lot of things, but when I began, the nature of this pursuit was a lot of auditions and a lot of going into different lots. And so you got an audition on a given day, you're going to Warner Brothers lot, and you're going to Paramount lot. And if you're a film nerd like I am, I still get a thrill. I've worked on Warner Brothers 100 times, and every time I walk on that lot, I think about the history, and I think about. So I think I feel like I lost the thread of your question, but ultimately the drive is this, that I have chosen to pursue a profession that a lot of other folks have chosen to pursue, and it can be a hard one. And there's a lot of actors that I know that you'll never know. A lot of actors whose work I know is extraordinary, and they have already retired, and because there was lack of work, or because they didn't get seen. So I think one of the things that keeps you going when you have a Big Guy Number 2 or a Large Russian, and this returns to this idea of gratitude, is you could look down your nose at it, or you could recognize, even for big guy number 2, 100 people came in and auditioned for that part, and you get to be the one that's there. So I think I'm mindful, and for as long as I've been an actor, I've been a teacher, and I'm mindful when I'm working, that I'm really fortunate to be working, but I'm also mindful of those other 99 actors that went in for that role that didn't get it. And I think that I have not quite a responsibility, but I am mindful of my good fortune. And I think it's important to luck is a loaded kind of a word. And it's certainly, I've worked hard, but at a certain point, you are going to need some things to break in your direction. And I've been lucky with things that have broken in my direction. And I keep in mind the actors that weren't that fortunate.
Well, I mean, as we alluded to a little earlier, you played Dutch in Red Dead Redemption, which is one of the premier franchises in the world of video games. The first 2 games are obviously massive. There's an online community that's also massive, and apparently there's more Facebook groups I possibly considered when I looked into it. So obviously the game is very successful. So how did you get involved in the franchise?
Well, I got an audition, and that was a long time ago now for Dutch. I got a late afternoon audition in Santa Monica, which a local LA actor will know is not what you want. You don't want to be driving from Hollywood to Santa Monica during rush hour. But I went out there, and it was an untitled cowboy project, I think is what it was called. And I went out, and it was a hell of a waiting room. There were everybody, all the guys were wearing plaid shirts and blue jeans, and some people had brought in fake 6-shooters, and some people were wearing Native American headdresses with no thought at all about cultural appropriation. And this was, I think, 2008, 2007, 2008, and I went in, and I had some copy to read, and I read it, and it was one of those days, you did a good job, and the producer said, we're going to have something for you on the thing. And I was like, that's great. And I left, and I didn't hear anything for a few months. And then I had to show up to work. And that was my first day going back out to Santa Monica, this time happily, because it was a booked gig. And that was when I slid into spandex for the first time. And little did I know that I was going to be going through that process for, on and off for the next 10 years to play this amazing guy that I was lucky enough to book, Dutch, who remains very important to me.
So it's motion capture as well as voice?
Yeah, well, the proper term is performance capture, and it was true on both games. So motion capture, and I'm glad you asked, motion capture, we're familiar with that is typically without sound, or what you'd call MOS, if any of your viewers are film school students. And that is just getting the body movements of a performer. And Rockstar employed motion capture on, I think, every title up and through Grand Theft Auto 4. And starting with Red Dead Redemption, the first of the games about John Marston and the Vanderlyn gang, they started using performance capture. And what distinguishes performance capture is the addition of a helmet, which on the first game was hardly even a helmet. It was like the inside of a construction hat with like a metal coat hanger, and at the front of it is an HD camera. And so what the camera is doing is you've got a microphone somewhere, you've got a battery pack strapped to you somewhere that's powering all of this, and and in a single pass you have all of the actors together on the soundstage working opposite one another, and all of the audio is captured, all of the facial work is captured, and then all of the body motion is captured in a single pass. And that's performance capture. Rockstar does not release any behind the scenes footage. A lot of us wish that they would, because we are always called voice actors, which is a wonderful thing to be, and I have been from time to time, but it is a mischaracterization of how Red Dead Redemption 2 were created. That was all entirely performance capture. If you ever watch the making of Avatar, that is essentially the same rig that we had, and it's essentially the same process as the one that Cameron uses on the Avatar film. So we don't have little blue ears on our helmets, but otherwise the rigs are pretty similar, and the work is pretty similar. Yeah.
So as an actor, obviously there's seems to be two complications when you're doing performance capture. First off, you're in the costume. Is it hard to imagine you're in the Old West when you're in a jumpsuit? You got a thing over your head. You got things, and the people you're acting against too have the cameras over their faces a little bit too, so you lose a little bit of those expressions. So how is that complicating things?
But that's a great question, man. You do get used to it, and so we were wearing cowboy boots, and we did have our gun rigs on. So that helps you get into it. It helps you get into it also changes the way you walk and your gait. And having the cameras, I would call it a tusk, because it's on the second one, it was a metal bar coming off. And the thing is that those of us that were on the show for 5 years, we got rather good at putting our cameras inside of each other's cameras if we had to get too close. Okay. You get good at it. And the other thing was that at the height of production, we're doing 3 weeks on and 2 weeks off, and the 3 weeks on, that's 5 days, so 15 days over 3 weeks. And by the end of that 3 week cycle, you're dreaming in dots. You're seeing ping pong balls everywhere. It becomes kind of second nature, and so you just get accustomed to it. One of the things that would happen though is if you show up for work at the beginning of the day, and you put on your two piece, the ping pong balls are put all over you, your helmet is set, your camera is focused and everything, and then you go into the green room and you wait for the sets to be built, and in the morning maybe you're going to be in Saint Denis, in the afternoon maybe you're going to be in the blizzard in Coulter, and you take it as it comes. But some days, if you wrap early, and there'd be maybe 15 of us in the green room on a given day, 20 sometimes. You wrap early, you go back and you take off your spandex and you put on your civilian clothes, and you go back into the green room, and all of a sudden you're not in the tribe anymore. You feel very odd that you're not wearing spandex, and you feel sort of out of the group. So it becomes second nature, I think. It certainly is. And throughout the 5 years, there would be people even at the end who'd never done it before. So you constantly, as easy as it became for us to accept it, we would constantly have fresh fish who would remind us how foreign it really was.
Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting about Red Dead Redemption is how the two games operate. The second game is the prequel to the first game. So in performing Dutch and his characterization, you kind of know where he has to end up at the beginning of the first game. So you can't really step on the toes of where you're going to take the character later. So in dealing with the complexities of Dutch, how do you kind of refrain from affecting where the character has to go in this first game? or end up in that first game. That makes sense.
Well, yeah, it makes sense. Honestly, it was to my great advantage. Curzon playing Hosea or Raj, I think, knew relatively early about important story beats that Arthur was going to go through. But most of the actors had no idea where their character was going to end up, and in some cases, I don't think even Rockstar had it figured out at the beginning where the characters were going to end up. I was in a really unique position in the sense that I knew I wasn't going to die. I knew I had to go crazy, and I wasn't crazy yet. Or not terribly crazy yet. And so I was in a position where I was really advantaged by knowing what I owed. I knew what was owed, and I knew what we had to get to. So it became a lot of fun, and it also became something that we took advantage of. And Rod Edge, our genius director, and he directs. Whatever Rockstar's working on now, he's directing, and he directed me on the first Red Dead and then the second. And he's one of those guys. I'd crawl through glass to work with him again, just because I so enjoy the collaboration. But we would talk about the fact that we know he's not going to die, and the audience that knows the first game, they know he's not going to die. And we talked a bit about Robert Duvall's character, Kilgore, in Apocalypse Now, where the narration says, Martin Sheen says he had a weird light around him. You just knew he wasn't going to get so much as a scratch. And that's kind of what we did with Dutch. Dutch knew he wasn't going to die. And in fact, it became kind of a mantra in my head that nobody kills Dutch but Dutch. And that ends up being the case. But it would affect things like on the day when we shoot the Braithwaite Manor. We're shooting the Braithwaite Manor, but literally the characters are also shooting at the Braithwaite Manor. But when the gunfire goes off, all the cowboys scatter. And if you're looking in the right direction, you'll see Dutch doesn't. Dutch walks. He starts shooting, and then he's not running for cover because the guy's thinks himself invincible. So it became a character trait.
So, important question: are you good at the game?
I don't know how to measure that. I don't punch my horse. I've 100. I completed it 100%. I've played through it. I've done 2 full playthroughs, and I've got a third playthrough that I don't know where I am in it. I kind of let go of it. I'll pick it back up if I'm going to a convention just to make sure I'm up on everything. But I got pretty good. I mean, I still think I could navigate that map without looking at the map even now. I know it pretty well. It's a surreal experience. But it's also, you go to play the game on the other side of having done it, and you get to see all sorts of things that you didn't get to see. I get to see, Kylie Vernoff's work as Miss Grimshaw, shit that I wasn't there on the day, and you just sort of get to see all these sort of wonderful details. And we spent 5 years on the thing, and it remains kind of wonderful that I can go to the camp and walk around and hear everybody's voice and see everybody's face to some extent, and it's surreal.
Are you surprised by just how popular the game proved to be?
It's Rockstar Games, so no. What amazed me, and I don't know that any of us were really ready for it. I mean, one of the things about another thing that comes with the territory of the misnomer of voice actor is on games with voice acting, those voices are replaced. So if you play a game that's voice acted, it'll be dubbed in whatever country you go to, there'll be a foreign language dub of it. The size and scope of Red Dead is such that that would be impossible to redub all the dialogue. It's undoable. So our characterizations are, if you're playing the game in Ukraine, if you're playing the game in Rome, if you're playing the game in South America, it's us. And so the thing I think that I didn't quite anticipate, I'm not sure any of us quite anticipated, was now that when we travel internationally, it really brings home the scope and the reach that Rockstar Games has as a really international entertainment company. And so to be put on a platform that Rockstar has built so carefully over so many years is extraordinary, and it is overwhelming. But again, you return to what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation, making sure that you are grateful and you recognize that there's responsibility with that platform.
Well, I mean, just talking about range, and you, like I said, you played Dutch in Red Dead Redemption, and then you play Bletelsnot. Am I saying it correctly?
I believe it's Bletelsnot.
Bletelsnot in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is very different than Dutch in many ways. So, what was that experience like for you, and what was it like on set?
Oh man, well, that is what my teacher Travis Preston would call the transformative capability of the actor. Bletelsnot is quite a bit different than Dutch, that's for sure. What was it like being on set? Any day working with James Gunn is a good day. First of all, I love that man. And getting to work with Dave Bautista and Palm Klementiev. Palm is, I mean, it was a very funny day, and it was a long time coming. You know, it took it was a long road getting Guardians 3 made, and there were a lot of twists and turns on that road. So when it finally came, so I had known, James had told me that there was a part for me in that film a very long time before I shot it, and I was very excited about it. I did not really know the nature of it until I got there. But like I said, as a kid, science fiction was a big deal to me. Prosthetic makeup was a big deal to me. So you're showing up, you know, I fly to Atlanta, I guess the December before, we shot it in January, the December before they flew me out just to see if they could fit that forehead on my forehead. And it did. And also for those that know me well know that dream of mine remains to one day play a Klingon. It has yet to happen, but it is absolutely life's ambition. And so to just get that forehead put on was pretty close to, it felt very Klingon-y to me. The eyebrows weren't on it yet. And then, but then I went out again in January. I think I spent 3 days shooting. And you know, I have to shave my beard, which I have to do often when I work, and I don't have any problem with it. I mean, every time it's a bit of a stranger under there every time I shave it off. But you know, it was 2.5, 3 hours in the makeup chair, and then you go out on this set, and it is something. Even talking to my friends who've seen it, and their presumption that like OrgoCorp and that whole place is a CG background, and we're on a blue screen set, and it's absolutely bullshit. That was built. That thing was an enormous set, and there's all of those actors and all of those makeups are all there. Every one of them looks just perfect. You could put anybody, you could grab anybody and put them into close-up. The makeup is so good. Legacy Effects was just crazy. So How was the day on set? It was fantastic. I mean, it was a real ton of fun, a real ton of fun. And the one thing that you worry about on the other side of it is you don't know if you're going to make it to the final cut or not. And I saw James about 4 months before the film came out, and he was like, "You're still in it," and I was like, "Yeah, well, I'll believe it when I see it." Because you don't ever know. So going to the premiere and seeing it and seeing how well it came together, and people seemed to respond well to it. And as for Bletelsnot, when I booked it, I think he was called Burly Guard, and it was on the day. Once we've got the take, James is sitting on a microphone and he's shouting out these alternate lines. And that's the first time I heard the name Bletelsnot was when he said, "Tell him your name's Bletelsnot." There it is. So I was like, all right, I'm Bletelsnot. I'll take it.
So, I mean, once again, as someone who's had such this great range of different acting roles, right? I believe the saying was that dying is easy, comedy is hard. Is your approach to doing a comedic role like that different than as you would approach, let's say, a more dramatic role or someone like Dutch?
No, not at all. I tend to I know that expression. I think there's a misnomer. When I first was starting out in LA, and you go to these agent meetings, and you'd get the question, "Are you a comedic actor or a dramatic actor?" And I would always say, and it didn't help me get representation. Nobody likes a wise ass, but I'm a good actor. I think at the end of the day, we make this mistake of the symbol for drama are two masks. Right? The mask of tragedy and the mask of comedy. And we think of those as two different things. The reality is that they're next to each other because they're part of the same thing. Any good drama has comedy in it, and any good comedy has drama in it. And I reject the notion that what makes for a good comedic actor makes for a bad dramatic one, or vice versa. I think a good actor is a good actor, and a bad actor is a bad actor. And the comedy comes from the circumstance, and it ultimately is going to come from ease and honesty, and that tends to be the thing that will work. It's a funny scene, but it's not funny to Bletelsnot. It's not particularly funny to Drax. It's definitely very funny to Mantis. That's the nature of the truth of it. And if it were a dramatic scene, like if they were doing it for some nefarious purposes, I don't know that it would play any differently, because the characters you play are unaware of the genre in which they exist.
So, I mean, once again, you had the role with Dave Bautista and Palm. I'm going to try the last name. I'm going to go with Palm on that one.
Clementieff, I believe, is the way you say it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Palm. So, once again, everyone knows them, Guardians of the Galaxy movies. They seem like a lot of fun. What do they like to work with?
What do they like to work with? Just the meanest cusses you've ever met. No, they're amazing to work with. They're wonderful, and they're. It's when you show up on a film like that. I mean, I don't know how many days they shot. 90 days, 100 days. I'm there for 3 days. Like you're there in the middle of a marathon, and I'm just there to make their lives a little easier for a minute or two. And I know full well what it's like to be in the midst of a grind versus to be, oh my God, look, I'm here. And so. But I will say both of them are consummate professionals. Both of them are prepared, focused, generous with their time and their energy, and we had a blast, just a blast.
Like I said, not only did you Red Dead Redemption, not only Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but you're also going to be Marcus in the upcoming Borderlands movie. So I don't know how much you can say about it, but I'm going to try to get you to say something about it.
Okay, well, I'm going to be Marcus in the upcoming Borderlands movie. Yes.
So what can you tell the listeners about the film?
I can tell them that it was made with a great deal of love. I can tell them that they are not prepared for. I don't know who would be prepared. Kate Blanchett as an action hero is not something that I ever imagined I needed in my life. But watching her, it felt. I mean, she's channeling Clint Eastwood, and except gorgeous and badass, and no disrespect to Clint Eastwood, but uh, she's remarkable. Jamie Lee Curtis is. I mean, the cast is absurd. Kevin Hart, Janina Gavankar, Edgar Ramirez, Jack Black is doing Claptrap. Uh, I, uh, I can tell people that it was made with a great deal of love. I can tell people that it looks like the game.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell people that it is the comedy is off the wall. Tonally, it is of the same cloth that the game is from, and Marcus is, I think the film should be called Marcus, but other than that, I think it's, I think it was just a tremendous amount of fun, and the cast that Eli Roth assembled to make the film is just a murderer's row of talented people.
So, for the people who have played the game, how close? Or I'm sure you're not able to say, but I'm going to ask you anyway. How close is the film from a story standpoint to what they would be familiar with in the game?
I'm going to defer to what Randy Pitchford said, which is it's its own universe. He sort of likened it to the way Marvel has a cinematic universe and Marvel has a comic books continuity, and they're not the same. That was sort of Randy's take, and I won't step on that. That it is the Borderlands cinematic universe. So there are elements of Borderlands that are going to be extraordinarily familiar, characters that are known, and I think the plot is, you're not going to be able to pinpoint it to. I don't believe that there's anything that's really one-to-one of anything that happens in the games.
Well, okay, you used the phrase borderline cinematic universe, and when we talk about Marvel, we talk about spin-off movies and things of that nature. Are there discussions then of borderline cinematic universe as far as films being spun out of it?
I hope so. I don't know. I think that time will tell, and yeah, I think time will tell. Certainly, if those conversations are happening, no one's invited me to the conversation, so I can only hope.
Well, the film's being directed by Eli Roth and Tim Miller. People should know the directors' names. What is the experience like working with them, and how do you create a good collaboration with each other?
Well, with Eli, it's not hard. Eli and I go back about 100 years. We grew up in the same hometown, so I've known Eli since we were about 2 years old, and so the working relationship, everybody loved working with Eli, and he was a wonderful tonic on the set, and he was really determined to make something special. And the nature of scheduling and the challenges of COVID, and also I think the nature of Eli's own schedule. He's working now, I believe, on a horror film called Thanksgiving. Meant that when reshoots were necessitated, that Eli put his trust in Tim Miller, who I've met, and we've done some work on that. Tim is a terrific guy, and I think that he's really focused on bringing this thing across the finish line and getting it into the hands of the fans where it belongs.
Now, for the character like Marcus, if he's anything similar to the game, he's a character without any kind of morals. That's usually how he's described as. It, so is he different than in the movie?
Without any morals, well, he has guiding principles. He's a big fan. He's a big fan of profit. He likes to make money. He doesn't like to give refunds. Um, uh, he's the I am standing on the shoulders of a voice actor in this case because and I talked to Randy about it. The Borderlands games employ motion capture to return to what we were talking about early on, but not performance capture. So the characters' voices are done after the fact, and Bruce DuBose has played Marcus across multiple titles, and his work is phenomenal, obviously. And so I spent a lot of time listening to his work and doing my best to honor it and build on it. And does he have any morals? He's got a compass. One of the unexpected challenges of it is that I had to learn how to drive a Soviet era bus.
Oh, wow.
Those that are unfamiliar with the game may not know that Marcus, he's a munitions dealer, an arms dealer, a raconteur of sorts, and he's making money where he can. He also drives a bus, so I had to learn how to drive Marcus's bus, and that was a pretty bizarre way to come out of lockdown. Fly from LA to Budapest, and then go to a studio and be presented with this giant bus that now you have to learn how to drive.
Well, from an actor standpoint, right? When you have a character like Marcus, because I mean, usually when actors talk about a character, they're looking for how to identify with that character, the connection with that character, and I assume you have some morals as an actual person. So when you deal with someone like Marcus, who's kind of like this opposite, kind of more of a very not necessarily immoral, but definitely let's say more criminal type individual. So how do you learn to encapsulate a character like that you may not have any common thread with?
Well, Jeff, first of all, I really want to thank you for presuming that I have moral fiber. I appreciate that very much. It's not that big a challenge, playing folks that are let's say less inhibited by consideration for others can be a great deal of fun to put those shoes on for a minute. Marcus, and for me, it was more exploring what drives him, and also there were. I don't want to step on anything. I will say again, my North Star was the original work, and the other thing I do have to say, and I cannot wait till there's a trailer or something, because Daniel Orlandi is the costume designer on the film, and when folks see what everybody looks like, they're gonna be very excited. And my Marcus costume, I have it on my phone, and I show it to folks who probably in violation of a non-disclosure. I show it to folks locally. I don't transmit it or send it anywhere. It's pretty spectacular. It's pretty great, and I really miss that bomber jacket a lot. And that costume did a lot to inform the work. And there was other things, he's got some gold teeth, and I had to get my hair dyed and my beard shorn and put on this magnificent outfit. And I'm going to assume the voice and all of that. At that point, you feel pretty much like I don't know. It's pretty easy to just pretend.
So, are you able to say how far along they are in filming Borderlands?
I don't know if I'm allowed to or not. I think that there is no filming left to do. I think that it is firmly in post-production. That is my understanding. But this is movie making, and who knows? Who knows?
So, are you? What else can you say about the project? And let's just say right off the bat, spoilers are totally okay if you want to give away a bunch of stuff.
Well, let's see. The big twist at the end. Not my first rodeo, man. I'm not gonna do that. I can say that I have seen some of the film and I'm excited about it.
So what's next for you? I mean, obviously, like I said, from Red Dead Redemption, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Borderlands, you're kind of like rolling in this like success film. So what's next that you can tell us about?
That I can tell you about. I'm not sure that I'm allowed to yet. There is some voice acting on the horizon, actual voice acting on a project that I think is coming to Hulu in the fall. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that yet, so I'm going to err on the side of not saying it. And then there's another project that I'm also not allowed to talk about that I'm very excited about. And yeah, maybe on the other side of that being announced, we can have another conversation. But I can't give it. I can't. You violate these NDAs, you don't get to sign another one. And I've the NDA on Red Dead, we all had to honor for a very long time. I'm pretty good at keeping my mouth shut when I need to. And when I don't need to, I won't shut.
Well, sir, like I said, when you're ready to talk about the project, the door is always open for you. Just let me know when you can. And Mr. Davis, has been an absolute honor. And like I said, my wife is jealous. And thank you so much for letting that happen too.
Well, I'm very glad. Please give her my very best. And Jeff, it was a real pleasure talking to you today. Hey, you too.